Okay, who the F stole my car, part 3. My ex-girlfriend was a narcissist, and even she didn't gaslight me as much as this Mazda dealership is. Okay, I get to the Mazda dealership. I walk in, and I wait for the service manager. He's at the desk. I wait for him to get off the phone, and he hangs up the phone, and I say, "Hi, my name's Paige." And he was like, "Oh, I was just getting ready to call you." I'm sure. By the way, North Carolina is a one-party state when it comes to recording, just so you know. Anyways, I said, "Why was my car on the other side of town all night long?" And he said, "Let me go check on that." So he walks to the back to the service area, and he comes back literally 2 minutes later, and he says, "I'm so sorry, it was the new guy, and he should have called you first." And I said, no. And he said, "Well, he was trying to get the check engine light to come on, and he test drove it a little bit during the day, and he couldn't get the engine light to come on, so that's why he drove it home. And we actually do that quite often." And I said, my car was in to have the windshield replaced and to have the software updated. So you're telling me that someone needed to drive my car round trip 50 miles in order to do that? Because I don't care what I don't know anything about cars, but I know that there's no way. I'm sorry, but no. Well, he was trying to get the check engine light to come on. There was nothing wrong with the engine. There's no need to get the check engine light to come on. So at this point, I know this man is banking on the fact that I don't know anything about cars and that I'm a woman, and that I'm just going to shut up and say, he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to believe him. He wouldn't lie to me. So I said, "I would like to speak to your general manager." And he says, "Okay, go sit down in the lounge and, I'll go get him." So I sit in the lounge. I'm there for like 2 or 3 minutes max. He comes back. The same guy, the service department manager, comes back and sits down next to me. And he says, "We do this quite often. We're allowed to drive the cars." And I said, "I'm going to stop you right there. Nothing you can say to me is going to explain the reason why you would need to drive somebody's vehicle to your personal residence and keep it there overnight. Because basically what you're telling me is that you don't want to pay your technicians to drive a car around for 30 minutes during their shift to figure out what's going on with it. And instead, you want them to do that while they're off the clock. So you have them drive the vehicle to their personal residence and keep it there overnight and then drive it back in hopes that they can identify the problem that way, so that you're not having to pay them for that car ride." That's basically what you're telling me. If you're saying that this is standard practice and you do this all the time. And he said, "Well, yeah, we have a guy that lives 2 hours from here and he does this." And I said, "You're telling me that you have a technician that lives 120 miles from the dealership, and when you call a person and say, 'Hey, we can't figure out what's wrong with your car, we need to drive it, and I'm going to drive it 120 miles to my house tonight, and then 120 miles back to the dealership in the morning,' they tell you that that's okay? I'm going to call bullshit on that. Something stinks. You might call and say, 'We need to drive your car for a couple of miles in order to figure out what's going on, in order to diagnose the problem.' And the person on the other line says, 'Oh yeah, that's fine, of course.' You're not telling them that you're driving it to your personal home, parking it in your driveway, and bringing it back the next day. Are you kidding me? No. The general manager never came back out. My car is not fixed. The bumper has been taken off. And now they're telling me that a bracket under the blind spot sensor is actually what needs to be replaced. So I don't know why you have to drive my car to your house overnight to figure out that a bracket under the bumper is what needs to be fixed. Why are you selling a car that has all of these problems in the first place? Like what? So I still don't have my car. They're supposed to fix it tomorrow, if they have the part. Like at this point, I'm screwed, because either I trust them and let them fix the car and continue to have it serviced there, or I have to go find another Mazda dealership on the other side of town to have my car serviced at. Like, I shouldn't be put in this position just because you guys are running shady business practices. I had an amazing time buying this vehicle from this dealership. I had a great guy that sold me the car. The finance guy was fantastic to work with. They stayed open late because I got there later in the evening and we were still in the process of doing the paperwork when the place closed. They were so nice. This has completely soured that experience. I was singing their praises to all of my friends. Go buy a Mazda. This place is great. And this has just flipped that immediately. So, I still don't have my car. I guess I'll give you guys another update tomorrow.